history repeating itself, the left making a fool of themselves, getting too distracted by a lot of the bad faith actors in the right wing. Let's watch the video of the Young Turks mocking right-wingers for suggesting that Hamas is potentially crossing into the country through the southern border, right? Might be doing it or might do it in the future, something to that effect. And it's kind of sarcastic, like, oh my goodness, these right-wingers. I'm telling you, man, I'll say it again. Yes, a majority of the right-wing media are bad faith. They push a lot of nonsense. It's propaganda. They're just trying to get clicks, playing with the emotion of their viewers. Oh, the borders are coming into the borders and the open borders. Okay, but you have to recognize that fact and separate it from what is actually happening at all times, right? You never just look at something that they're talking about and just automatically dismiss it, right, based on them being bad faith and having a track record of being bad faith. Because even them being bad faith doesn't mean that the argument is invalid. Right now we're in a situation creeping quickly into a potential war type situation, right? We have, as a country, we're backing Israel. Israel has killed thousands of civilians, most of them children, I believe, right? Absolutely atrocious. And we are siding with the people that are doing that, right? So there are a lot of countries and, let's say, people who are watching this and, have a serious problem with that. And some of these people are very violent, right? Hamas being one of them. Hamas, terrorists. We saw what they did on October 7th, right? The idea that they might want to attack us is not absurd.
Into the United States from the southern border by Hamas. That's right, Hamas and Hezbollah terrorists. So ABC News confirmed that the US Customs and Border Protection officials in San Diego sent an intelligence notice alerting that Hamas and Hezbollah militants may potentially be encountered at the southwest border. Individuals inspired by or reacting to the current Israel-Hamas conflict may attempt to travel to or from the areas of hostilities in the Middle East via circuitous transit across the southwest border, part of the notice stated. Cool. How do they leave Gaza? If you can figure out how they leave Gaza, man, a lot of Gazans would like to know. A lot of Palestinians would be very curious how the hell to get out of Gaza. However,
approach that are just dismissing it and putting it in context, saying, hey, this is something that actually could happen. Should look into it, but the odds are not very high based on X, Y, and Z. Right? Focus on informing the audience rather than just focusing on being contrarian, opposing your opponents, calling them out. These guys are so ridiculous, right? Good probability that that might actually be the case. The argument was made then that it's absurd that Hamas would do this because how are they going to get out of Gaza? How can they get out of Gaza? If they knew how to get out of Gaza, then they would get out of Gaza, right? They're trapped in Gaza. Oh, you dummies. So you really think that these terrorists are stuck in Gaza and they have no way to get out, right? Are you the same people who rightfully so mock the idea of a wall, right? Now we're going to build some magic wall that's going to put an end to the situation at the border, right? Like we've never heard of people climbing over the wall, putting holes in the wall, digging under the wall, right? Like we never heard of that, right? So you guys rightfully point out that simply building a wall is not the solution. There's many, many things that we need to do, right? Having barriers is just one of them. It's not some holy grail, right? It's easily defeatable. You need a complete, comprehensive system, in terms of border protection, right? So you are the same people who rightfully pointed out that that's not how it works. But yet you think that if Hamas wants to get out of Gaza, they can't get out of Gaza? You really think that? Right? And you also think that all of Hamas exists only in the Gaza Strip? Right? Is that what you think? Right? So you think that gangs that are based in Chicago, you'll only find members in Chicago. right? I know it's a little bit of a different scenario. You don't have this, sort of barriers, protecting you from getting out of Chicago. But what I'm getting at is organizations, groups, whatever you call it, they're not limited by borders, right? You can start a gang in Chicago and you can have chapters across the country. So I'm sure that there are people who support the Hamas cause who are not in the Gaza Strip. Maybe never were in the Gaza Strip, right? They just see what's going on and they feel some kind of solidarity with the Hamas and they join remotely. Somehow, like, that's a thing, right? And perhaps the bad faith argument, possibly, could be, why does it have to be Hamas? Right? There's other groups, other terrorist groups that are sympathetic to what's happening. And they don't like America's involvement. They look at this as a religious type war, right? So you can have other terrorists that can come in through the border, right, and attack us. And we're heading into a situation where the probability of that happening is getting higher and higher with every day. So why is the Young Turks, oh, so ridiculous? Okay, yeah, they're bad faith actors, right? They're just using this for their border nonsense. But again, that fact does not invalidate the argument. You got to look at the argument. Is there a potential threat of people coming into the border? Is there a threat of potential terrorist attacks in the country? There's always a threat of potential terrorist attacks in the country. And absolutely there now is, a big risk of that. And it's going to be, more and more so as we go along, depending on how much America gets involved. So it's valid to be concerned about border security relevant to what's happening right now, regardless of the fact that bad faith actors are the ones bringing it up. It's still a valid thing to be concerned about, right? Here's what happens when you do this nonsense. You turn your blind eye to it. You set your audience up to turn their eyes to it. Oh, the right-wingers, nonsense, open borders, right? So you ignore it, and things fester. Real things happen. They don't get reported about. You're not even aware of it, right? You're in your little bubble, right? Meanwhile, maybe there was a couple of militants that were caught at the border, and they had some kind of indication, serious red flags of like, whoa, maybe there is something here. But you guys don't hear about it because it's not profitable for the media you're watching to talk about it, so you're in the dark. Then there's a big terrorist attack. Boom, they blow up something, a bunch of people get killed, and then the normies, right, who might have listened to some right-wing video talking about this months ago, and then they'll listen to those right-wingers at that point, I told you so, told you so, told you so, right? And they'll be like, wow, the left, these guys are ridiculous. The right was talking about this for months ago, and they just totally ignored it. They don't really care about our border. It looks like they really don't care about our country, right? They start feeding into the right-wing narratives, right? And that's how you get somebody, maybe through frustration. They were not really political before, but now the frustration, they're like, wow, look at this terrorist attack that happened in my town. And the left is part of maybe why it happened because, of course, they're extrapolating this from the rhetoric, right? Because the group of people that were saying, watch out for the border, were ignored seemingly by the left, which potentially allowed it to happen in the first place because the politicians that pander to, liberals and folks on the left, right? They are not sort of motivated to do anything, right? Because their voters don't care because the media they're consuming says, oh, right-wingers, right? So maybe this terrorist attack could have been prevented, but now all these people are dead because of the left and the liberals and their, you see how that works? And then the right wing will be talking about it forever. We were right on everything. We were right on everything about this Hamas thing. And when we said you got to wipe them out and the left with their bleeding heart liberals, the babies. Like, these people are not human. You have to wipe them out and see we were soft on them. And then we were soft on the border. And now look at all the people dead in our country. All because of the left. Stop being so focused on doing exactly what the right wing does, right? Prioritize being sort of contrarian. Whatever position your opponents have, you got to take the opposite position. So they're talking about the border. Oh, the border.
Use the left lane to turn left.
There is something to it. Don't just dismiss
Turn left.
Think about it, look into it, and see there's something to it. There's nothing
You've
to it.
arrived at your
Then,
destination.
You could be totally fine with, saying, hey man, you guys are on some BS, right? But check it out. out first, right? Is that the rational approach? I don't know, guys. Visit the baby channel, the baby in the comment section below, click on the like button, subscribe, happy Halloween.